I'd like to welcome everyone to our third Naperville Business Network meeting of 2022. I'm very excited this morning to welcome all of you and our guest speaker, Stewart Nelson from LaSalle Network. My name is Michelle Sherritt, and I am one of the founders and owners of the Naperville Business Network and our four other powerful networking groups, the Oak Brook, Northwest, North Shore, and Windy City Business Networks. Before we begin this morning, I'd like to cover a few brief housekeeping items and tell you a little bit more about our business groups. Our groups were started back in 2008 on LinkedIn and have grown to be the largest networking groups online. We decided to take the groups live about 3 years ago, and we trademarked all of the names. And now we have over 331 paid members. We're still growing, and we'd love for you to become a member as well. During the pandemic, we had to shift our focus for our paid membership from meeting in in-person settings to offering more advertising opportunities to our members. We've decided to continue this trend and include this with our membership. So our membership is $3.99 a year, and that includes a 30-minute podcast interview on our podcast, Windy City Biz. Currently, we have 110,000 subscribers, and that's national. So you get a 30-minute business interview about you and your business, and then we take that podcast and we do it on Zoom. So we take the audio and put it on the podcast, and then we take the video, and we're able to take clips out of it. We're able to then create social media posts about your business that we put out on all of our social media platforms for all 5 groups 3 times a year. So you get that exposure as well. Oh, we also create a blog post about your business, which goes out to 6,500 newsletter subscribers that we have. And then we do 3 shout outs per year on your business on our podcast channel. So after we do a podcast interview, we always talk about 2 to 3 businesses that are members of our group. All online events, of course, are free, like today's. We also have pop-up happy hours as well that are free too. Now, when we start back up in person, which our first in-person event is going to be May 6th, all of the meetings would be included. So when we're meeting in person, that includes any speaker fees that we have, any room rental fees. It includes a light breakfast, so a breakfast sandwich, coffee, and water. It also includes all your happy hour tickets. So we have one event per month where we choose a restaurant or a local brewery to have a happy hour, and that includes your ticket price to come in. Also, during the year, we have 4 charity formal dinner events that we do, where we choose a charity and all the proceeds go to that charity. Those tickets are $150 for each event, and that is included in your membership. So our membership, you're getting a lot for the $3.99. We also just held a virtual happy hour last week with over 40 people that attended, and we gave away a 1-year membership. During our virtual happy hour events, we have a wheel of questions, kind of keeps the conversation going and keeps it fun. We have breakout rooms that we put you in so that you can do some speed networking and make connections, and we always have a giveaway. So it just isn't a boring Zoom virtual happy hour that you guys have probably attended during the pandemic. We actually have fun. Our next one's going to be March 16th. And then if you can't make that one, we have one coming up on March 23rd, and they are from 5:30 to 7 p.m. They are not also just for local business owners, it's national as well. So if you're a business who does business with people around the United States, it's a great opportunity for you too. And plus we have those giveaways. I think the next one is a 30-minute podcast interview. So definitely something that you want to attend and see if you can win it. We have other events coming up as well. We actually have our events all the way up to the end of May on our website, so check it out. We have another Zoom event tomorrow for the Northwest group. We have speaker Megan Robinson, who's going to be talking to us about leadership skills. And then on Monday for the Oak Brook group, we have the mayor from DeKalb, Cohen Barnes, speaking to us on cybersecurity. So to check out all the events, to sign up for any or to learn more, just visit our website at naperbiz.net and go under upcoming events. Today's talk, we ask that you keep yourself muted unless you have a question and it's Q&A time, then you may unmute yourself, or you can simply type your questions in the chat box below. If you're joining us on one of our 5 Facebook Live groups this morning, just type your questions in the comment section and I will moderate those for Stewart when we get to Q&A. The talk today will be recorded, so it will be available to you. We will send you out an email with upcoming events and also a link to the recording. So if you miss anything or have to pop out, not a big deal. You can go ahead and check out that recording. Today's speaker is Stewart Nelson from LaSalle Network. Stewart is well-versed in staffing and recruiting. He formerly worked at Career Builder, where he worked within the staffing solutions category. Today, Stewart will be talking to us about 2022 hiring trends and how to overcome challenges. Welcome, Stewart.
Thank you, Michelle. And hello to everyone that's viewing. Really pleased to be here today and excited to speak to everyone about the 2022 hiring trends and challenges today. So the data that we're going to cover today, it comes from a survey that LaSalle Network had collected back in November of 2021. But before I dive in, let me first just quickly introduce LaSalle Network. So LaSalle Network is a staffing, recruiting, and culture firm located in Chicago. Been in business a little over 23 years. And have been recipients of many prestigious awards in our space, ranging from Best in Staffing to Top Training 100 programs to Best Places to Work. LaSalle focuses on finding and delivering top talent across 11 lines of business in the corporate back office. We do temp to hire, as well as direct hire placement solutions. So please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or LaSalle Network following today's session for any information on how we can potentially help. So without further ado, let's dive into the agenda. So today we're going to focus on 4 main areas: hiring data overview, addressing attrition, top hiring challenges, and then hiring trends to prepare for. So as I mentioned, in November of 2021, LaSalle Network collected survey responses from more than 250 finance, operations, and human resources executives to understand their focus for the year ahead. Now, 63% of respondents report an increase in employee turnover, meaning that this information we're covering today is more important to understand and prepare for than in recent previous years. So 73% of companies are looking to add headcount in 2022. And 2 in 5 companies are planning to grow their workforce by more than 10%. Some top roles that companies project hiring for are customer service, accounting and finance, IT, sales, and marketing. So the increased demand for customer service, sales, and marketing is very, very indicative of a strong market coming for the next 6 to 18 months. Now, these customer service personnel specifically, these are the folks that are representing the brand to customers that need support. They're going to be directly impacting the Net Promoter Score, or NPS, of a business. For a quick example, if you've ever gotten those surveys that say, how likely are you to refer XYZ company to a friend or a colleague to use? That's an example of the NPS there. Now, secondly, adding accounting and IT professionals is also indicative of a growing workforce as well. So addressing the Great Resignation. So a lot of businesses have already felt the pressure of a lean workforce for many, many months. And economists are saying that the Great Resignation is likely to continue well into 2022. So this makes retention one of the most important factors that leaders should be addressing now. Turnover is contagious. When people start to leave, others tend to follow suit. So get ahead of this early by communicating with your people, performing exit interviews, working on improving your employee experience. 63% of respondents stated that their business experienced more turnover in 2021 compared to their average year. Now, after a coworker departs or resigns, 52% of employees said they took on more responsibilities. 30% struggled to get necessary work done. 27% felt less loyal to their organization. And 55% questioned whether their pay is high enough. So I think it's fair to say, when employees turn over, the existing staff feels more pressure. They start asking themselves, do they really want to stay? So let's look at what we can do as employers to address the Great Resignation. Now, the first step to addressing turnover and preventing it from spreading is to start a dialogue with your people. Talk about what the business is doing to support their employees, how they're going to handle this increased workload if there is turnover on the team. So some tactics being used in today's environment show that 53% are allowing staff to work remotely or part of the time. 42% are investing in growth and development opportunities. 30% are increasing benefits offerings, while another 30% plan to invest in team and culture building activities. When it comes to remote work, I think the work world has changed significantly since the pandemic hit us a little over 2 years ago. Employees, they want more flexibility on where they can do their job. So again, these are some of the tactics being used today to help with this. So according to respondents, the most difficult aspects of the hiring process they face now are meeting compensation requirements, followed by candidate drop-off, and finally, finding skilled workers. So I'll break each of these sections down here in more detail. So meeting compensation requirements. 53% of respondents stated meeting comp requirements was a top challenge. 61% of companies will increase their wages in 2022, while 74% of companies will increase their wages by more than 3%. Now, finding skilled candidates was the #1 challenge for many employers since 2016, but that was actually overturned this year. So with today's rising prices, higher salaries that are not likely to keep pace with inflation as it's edging towards 6.2%. So this is the highest it's been in more than 3 decades. So what that means is that salary negotiations are highly likely to continue throughout 2022. In some businesses, increasing salary offerings to attract candidates, it's leading to some serious pay inequity between new employees as well as existing staff. So a lot of organizations, just increasing these salaries, it may not be sustainable. And as the market settles, so will these salaries. So leaders need to prepare to utilize some alternative methods of attracting candidates beyond just the salary increase, such as strong company culture, growth and development opportunities, and other perks and benefits. So let's talk through challenge #2, candidate fall off. So 41% of respondents stated that candidate fall off was the top challenge. 29% said they lost talent due to the length of their hiring process. Now, I think for the most of us on this call, we've all been here before. Right? We find a great candidate, we get them into interview, things are going so well, and then all of a sudden they disappear. Right? There's nothing more frustrating than that. And a lot of candidates, they're not explaining their reasoning behind ending this interview process suddenly. Your recruiters and hiring managers really need to preemptively be asking questions regarding any hesitations the candidates may have, what their motivating factors have been for applying to these positions, and do it early in the process. It's also important to personalize these conversations with each individual candidate. In today's job market, there's more than 11 million open positions, and candidates have a lot more choices than they used to. So trimming the length of an interview process may help keep candidates engaged for the entire duration. So ask yourself, is it possible to reduce a step in that interview process? Could you leverage digital technology in interviews via Zoom or Teams, for example? Can you expedite the feedback and put out next steps to candidates to keep that process moving? So generally speaking, in today's world, people want things fast. They want it easy. It's a candidate's market, and employers really need to adapt in order to secure the best talent available. It's no longer a world where you can make candidates jump through a million hoops, or do 5 different assessments, come in for 7 rounds of interviews, and then wait and see how other candidates compare, without providing feedback to your interviewees. Right? So tighten the interview process. This is something that can help yourself expedite your desired end result, which is hiring a great candidate. Challenge number 3 is just finding the skilled candidates. So this was the #1 challenge for 4 consecutive years. As I mentioned, it's now been overturned. And more than 1/3 of companies are struggling to find candidates with the correct skill sets. So the top 3 types of those skill sets needed include technology, management and leadership, as well as analytics. So to combat the skills gap, consider hiring inexperienced candidates. Look at providing growth and upskilling opportunities for employees. Right? This is one of the ways that you can keep your employees engaged, improve your retention while you're developing their essential skill sets. In this market, you're going to find that there's a lot of candidates that have, let's say, 4 out of 5 or 9 out of the 10 boxes checked, with an opportunity now that you can train and teach any of those missing skills. So overall, don't overlook candidates just based on the bullet points on their resume. Identify, are they able to learn, and can you train them? Now, secondly, to promote internal job opportunities, leaders can start to share these opportunities via a company intranet homepage, or simply via email, or start the discussion in an open communication in meetings or town halls, right? Increase the awareness of these opportunities. You can even start to request nominations from your managers of high-performing employees. Start developing a strong succession plan for these high potential employees as well. So sometimes the answer to your hiring challenge, it might be inside your organization already. So look inside. And we've looked at a couple challenges. So let's shift to some workplace trends to watch for in 2022. So this is where leaders have chosen to increase company spend in 2022. And it indicates a focus on attracting talent to their organization and training them to perform. So 81% say that they're going to increase salaries, 54% with better training programs, 52% plan to spend more on hiring, 51% plan to increase technology, and 46% of respondents plan to increase spend on employee benefits. So 1/3 of companies that are adding these benefits and perks in 2022, the 3 most common being paid time off, flex hours, and I'll make a note that these flex hours are often combined with a remote setup or a work from home for flex hours, as well as 401k and matching. We've already talked a little bit about how increasing these salaries can help attract talent, but benefits allowing employees to be more flexible with when, where, how they're doing their jobs, combined with the benefits to help them into their future, are extremely important. So when it comes to remote work policies, it's remote work's really evolved from more of a safety protocol to now a retention strategy. It's changed from a perk that some companies would give to their employees. Now it's an expected offering. So if your organization's not offering remote work, or a hybrid setup, be sure and message that and be clear to your candidates, because many candidates out there assume that this is a given in today's environment. So in a separate survey, more than 1,700 professional that we had surveyed back in August, 41% said they wanted to remain working remotely full-time. 31% said that they wanted to work from home at least part of the time. The majority of respondents said they wanted the option to work from home at least 3 days a week. And I hope everyone's sitting down, because 83% said that they would accept a new role if they were able to work remotely or on-site as desired. So continuing with remote work policies, 41% of respondents say that all or most staff are able to work remotely either part of the week and in office part of the week. 29% state that all or most staff are able to work remotely. 15% will work on-site full-time and others work remotely full-time, while another 15% are saying that all or most staff are required to be on-site. So again, remote work, it's very much still the norm at a lot of businesses, and it is very, very likely to stay relevant in at least a hybrid capacity for the foreseeable future. So consider how you're keeping your people engaged and invested in the culture remotely will matter even more moving forward. Now, before we get into the vaccination policies, I want to make a note that this survey, once again, it was done back in November of 2021. Many things have changed since this, but at the time, when asked, 47% of respondents said that candidates were not required to be vaccinated. 43% said that they did have to be vaccinated. And 10% said unvaccinated candidates, they can be hired, but only virtually. So let's shift gears. Let's dive into culture. I think there's a big difference between perks and culture. So culture is one of the ways to not only attract talent, but retain them for many years to come. So some ideas to better help culture. Look at training and development. Are there internal opportunities to train and develop your people, right? But don't stop looking internal, look externally. Are there any other organizations you can partner with to help your staff? Look at philanthropy. Are there any company-sponsored events or committees? Are there employee-led philanthropic programs? When it comes to corporate grandparenting, look at building relationships 2 layers below. So as an example, your C-levels shouldn't have just a relationship with the management, right? Go those 2 levels down, have those relationships with your entry-level staff as well. You can also look towards experiences and recognition, right? What kind of company-wide awards are there, or are there any, right? Retreats, offsite events. Look at sharing what career pathing looks like. Even look at building out mentorship programs, right? These are all different ways to, again, attract and retain some talent inside your organization. So what drives culture? These 4 bubbles here: transparency and communication, learning, growth and development, connection to a team, as well as connection to leadership. These are the elements that matter most to employees. This is what's driving culture. And I want to make it very clear that it's no longer, the free beer, or the ping pong tables, or the catered lunches on a daily basis. Again, it's these 4 main buckets that are really going to drive culture. So let's talk transparency and communication. So town halls. So at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, when our entire company went virtual for the first time, our CEO would host daily town halls, and purpose of them, right? He wanted to keep employees updated on what's going on in the business, what's the latest news, what's important for these folks to understand. Now, it's very, very important for our leaders to be in front of our employees, to be present, as well as to be honest about what's going on. Now, one-on-ones, managers really need to conduct these with employees to get to better know their people beyond just what they're working on. So for instance, what their motivators are in the moment, what do they have going on personally, right? Build connections with your people. For both leaders and direct reports, a quick eye-opening exercise is breaking down how much you really know about your people. So as an example, do you know where he or she is from? Do you know where they're at now? Do you know their spouse's name, right? Do you know their children's name? Do you know any hobbies? Do you know what they like to do outside of work, right? And then ask yourself, what do they know about me as their leader, right? So try your best to get to know your people. When it comes to coaching, your employees, they want feedback. So change the perspective on how feedback is perceived and ensure that your employees know that it's because you want them to succeed and you see their potential. It's not to knock them down, right? So try catching them doing something great and then be vocal about it and let them know that you saw it. And when it comes to two-way transparency, you just really can't expect your people to open up if your managers aren't. So when it comes to learning, growth, and development, look into training programs and learning opportunities. I mentioned there are internal opportunities as well as external opportunities. And your people, they want to learn, they want to grow, they want the future inside your organization. So it's our jobs to support them so they don't have to look elsewhere. When it comes to mentor programs, oftentimes a new hire can get paired up with more of a veteran inside the organization, and it helps them navigate what can oftentimes be a really, really scary first-time scenario for someone, right? It can really help them get their bearings inside the organization. A lot of times new hires, they feel more comfortable speaking with a colleague versus their direct leader for questions they feel that they should know, even if they've never done the job before, right? So create this culture of support. So training and development. So finding ways to provide training excuse me, finding ways to provide training opportunities to your employees, things like skill building, role-specific training, leadership development, and diversity and inclusion. So be sure to ask your employees what they want to learn about, because it may not be what you think they want to learn about. It might be other things that they're interested in. So quick example, LaSalle Network, we host a weekly, we call it a bite-sized learning session. It's a 15-minute session once a week, and we'll talk a wide range of role-specific job trainings where employees really feel that they can be open, they can be honest, and they can learn without any fear. And when every company starts offering the same flashy perks, I know I talked a little bit about it, the ping pong tables, the beer, things like that. It's really the connection to the team and the connection to leadership. These are the things that are going to stand out. This is what your people really want. If you're trying to drive culture, find the connection to your people and identify their motivators. Each employee is going to be motivated by different things. So you can't assume that they all want the same thing. And when companies give, let's say, more PTO, when really your people want career growth and they want feedback, right? Look at personal development, acknowledgement and respect. Have some camaraderie, have some fun, right? Look at increasing responsibility and challenge for your people as well. So the 3E management is something that LaSalle Network CEO coined. It's our management practices. What we practice, we empower our employees to make decisions, to create, to do, right? We want our employees to be allowed to fail. Give employees autonomy to make decisions. but you have to have empathy while doing it, right? Remember what it was like to be an employee. They can be dealing with things personally. They can feel overwhelmed as they try something for the first time, especially if they're new to the organization. Perhaps it's an industry change for them, right? Understand that they have fears, they have hopes, they have dreams. Empathize with your people. And finally, education. Provide your people with the tools and the training that they need to succeed. Again, both internal and external, being transparent about it, and keeping that open door policy. So one topic that's not often addressed, but really happy to talk through it is the focusing on your B players. So who are your B players? Now, you may have heard the 10-80-10 approach. Now, if not, what that represents is roughly the top 10, the bottom 10, and that middle 80% of your staff. So as leaders, we have to identify who our A, B, and C players are. And furthermore, the time that you're investing with the top 10, with the bottom 10, should be in line with these numbers. So your A players, right? They don't need handholding. They need positive reinforcement. They need feedback. So don't hold your A players back. Let them do what they've done to become an A player. Now, on the other side, your C players, these are your underperformers. So it's natural as humans to want to invest more time with your C players. But these folks rarely tend to move themselves into that B category, right? So you're better off investing your time and the majority of your time with your B players. So these are the folks that have the potential to become A players, right? Now, they also face the risk of falling into the C player category if you're not providing time, coaching, feedback, proper communication, and training to these folks. So let's take 2 seconds. Let's compare these players, right? So when it comes to A, B, and C, so your A players, these folks have the innate skills, the desire, the ability to be great. Leaders want to be around them because they're fun. They produce. It's fun to win. And when it comes to B players, oftentimes they can be a bit more timid. They can lack confidence. They're flexible and they're open to new opportunities. They respond very well to feedback and they can excel with guidance. Oftentimes they do need some incentives or motivation, but typically we see that these B players are more curious and more interested about what they can do to continue their careers. Now the C players, these are the folks that are just really not interested. They're comfortable just being the status quo. They can get defensive really easily. They like to challenge everything and they just don't have the motivation required to, consider themselves a B or an A player. So why focus on these B players? So Harvard Business Review, states that organizations' long-term performance, even survival, depends far more on the unsung commitment and contributions of their B players. So invest some time and get to know them in the one-on-one. All right. So when was the last time you asked them, hey, how did you do your job? How do they view other areas of the operation? When's the last time you asked your employee, how can you, as their leader, better support them on a daily basis? Ask them, what's the most menial thing that they do? Culture 101, talks about making sure that you're in touch with some aspect of what your people do to keep that connection level high. And forget the idea of steady Eddie. Here's a quote from our CEO, Tom Gimble. Said, don't make assumptions about B employees, because without spending time with them, you won't actually know what they want out of their careers. They could just up and leave for what they see as a better opportunity, leaving you blindsided. So recruiting and re-recruiting. I think companies focus a lot on recruiting top talent. They get these folks in the door, they get them onboarded, and they sit back, they kick their feet up, right? Now, this is really where the real work needs to begin. Okay, you need to keep your people engaged to stay long term, right? It's not just about getting them in, it's about retaining as well. So I really hope throughout this presentation, you've learned a few tips on how to recruit and retain talent. But for a little more insight, feel free to scan this QR code with your phone. You'll be taken directly to this report where you can find more information and data like I just outlined for you today. But I'd love to thank everyone for your time. I really do hope that this has been helpful. So thank you so much. Now, if there are any questions, happy to move into a Q&A session.
Okay, so if anyone is on Zoom that would like to unmute and ask a question, now is the time. Okay. Oh, I thought somebody unmuted. All right. We do have some questions on Facebook. So as far as culture, I guess this is more of a comment, but maybe you can talk a little bit more on this. It's in regards to culture. And one person said, we look at our competition and see what our competitors are doing and we copy it. Do you suggest that that's a good thing to do, a bad thing to do?
Well, I think that I'm going to play both sides of the fence here. So now, if your competition is providing things that have proven to attract more talent or retain better talent long term, then absolutely, right? Take some of those things on. Now, on the flip side, you want your organization to be unique, and you want to create that experience that employees feel like they're not a number, right? There's something individualized about the organization that they work at that makes them happy to be there and want to continue to stay there. So I would say overall, right, invest into culture as much as possible and ask your people, what is it that they want? Even ask them, right? For this example, even ask them, right, if we had X, Y, and Z in terms of what the competition's doing, right, how would that make you feel, right? Would that be something you'd be looking for? So hopefully that helps answer that question a bit.
Okay, thank you. A lot of comments just saying culture is everything. Some people are saying we have no culture at our company. I'm thinking about leaving. Good luck to you. I hope you find something good. Somebody's asking, do you have any tips on how to find talent? Our company uses Indeed. We go through the entire process. We get people, they show up to one interview, and then we never hear from them again. Are there any other good platforms out there that we should be using?
So I think there's a lot of different tools out in the market today. The online job boards, I think, are definitely a great resource. Obviously, you could turn to a staffing recruiting partner as well, but also look at your own network. Take a moment and even ask your employees. Oftentimes, you can bubble up questions to your staff and say, hey, we're looking for XYZ type of employee. Do you happen to know anyone? Utilizing your LinkedIn network, social media is also a great strategy as well. But really anywhere you can get your message out there to the greater masses is going to help you with volume. Now, the more volume that comes in, right, the less quality from time to time, right, depending on which sources you're coming from. So if you're flooded and inundated with candidates, right, that can take a little bit more time to screen and go through that entire process as opposed to a smaller funnel with less candidates and perhaps a little more highly qualified. But I would say just take a peek at some of the online resources. There's a lot of free resources out there available as well.
Okay. Somebody else said we use Indeed too. However, we find that we put in the criteria that we want for the position, but we're not getting the talent back that we should be. So we're having to settle. Do you have any suggestions for that? So I think what they're talking about is, and I know for our company, we have this issue too. We'll put out a post for a position and then the, leads that we're getting in the, applicants, they're not qualified. So like one of our qualifications is you must have a master's degree and blah, blah, blah for whatever position it is. And so we're getting, people who are in college or don't have their bachelor's yet, things like that. So, and we're not getting anyone that's qualified. So I guess that question kind of goes into this as well. Should we just take what we can get because of the market right now, or should we just hold out?
So I think it's important to look at and beyond just the resume. And I know that that's the first line of defense when someone applies. You want to look at their resume, and you're going to quickly, typically, right, it takes less than 30 seconds to identify on a resume, hey, is this person qualified? Do they have A, B, and C? Right?
Right.
If I need 5 boxes checked, how many do they have? So
Mhm.
I talked a little bit about it, and it's really important in this market because, again, it is a candidates market. There are so many more opportunities that they can pick from than they had even 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years, 20 years ago, right? So trying to identify, okay, do they have the majority of the skill sets that I need? And
Mhm.
then can I train the rest of those? Right now, if it's not trainable, if you don't have the internal or external resources to do the training, you're going to have to make the decision. And is this person actually going to be able to get the job done? If so, great. Provide that training and coaching and development. If not, you may be better off holding out until you can find the right fit.
I laughed because Jesse said qualified. The Titanic was built by qualified engineers. Thanks, Jesse, for the laugh. But it is true. He also said recommend asking more engaging questions to your candidates. Leave them wanting to learn more about your company and more what their roadmap could look like. So that's a good insight.
Absolutely.
Um, Someone else said our hiring process is very lengthy. We've tried to shorten it as much as we could. It seems that we get a lot of candidates. We get through the hiring process. We're ready to give them an offer, and then they fall off the face of the earth. So you kind of talked about this a little bit. They get another job offer, and they take it right away. Or they get another job offer and then they try to counter us and try to get a higher amount, which makes sense. That's what we all do. So, do you have any insight on that? Like, I guess what they're saying is that their hiring process was long. They tried to shorten it as much as they thought they should. Is there any kind of technique they should be using? Like, do you have a suggestion for how long a hiring process should be? What steps should be in the hiring process? Like, make sure that you have these certain steps or any kind of tips like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question. So first and foremost, and from a 10,000-foot view, look at your entire interview process and take a second and map it out on a whiteboard or piece of paper, right? And look at first and foremost, how long does it take to get from step A to step Z, or essentially from the first time you'll interview to the time you get onboarded, right? Now, if we look at that timeline and you start to ask yourself, would I be willing as a candidate to invest that much time, right? If the answer is no, then what we need to do is we need to go back to the hiring process and start to look at what can we chop out, okay? Uh, a lot of companies have interviews that may not be 100% necessary or could be combined with multiple interviews at the same time, right? So in an example of an organization that requires 5+ interviews, that's a scenario where candidates in today's market, they're just not going to follow that process. Why?
Mhm.
Because there's so many more opportunities out there for them to choose from. They don't have to spend that time, jump through the hoops, do all these assessments, things like that, to get the job that they're looking for. So again, I would also say if you can utilize any type of technology to expedite an interview process, but even more than just the technology, um, talking about next steps, being very, very clear and communicating, okay, this is the date and time for the next interview or the next step in the process. Now, the last thing I could say to suggest to help with this and help with the drop off is ask your interviewees,
Mhm.
who else are you interviewing with? What's your timeline look like? Right? When do you need to have a new position? Right? So understand what their motivators are. Combine that with what kind of types of perks and culture benefits that your organization offers to keep them engaged and reduce the for lack of a better phrase, the ghosting of candidates.
Okay. One thing you did just mention was onboarding, which we have a question on Facebook about. They said that their hiring process is very short. They find qualified folks. This is for a sales position. However, their onboarding process is 2 months. Do you feel that that's too long for our candidates, or do you feel that that's a good length of time? We feel that we hire people, we get them going on the onboarding process, and they ditch out. They think it's too long.
Okay. Now this is a specific for sales role.
Right.
So I would say that it's not uncommon for a lengthy onboarding or what I would refer to as more of a ramp program, especially for a salesperson. Oftentimes, and I'm making some assumptions here, so bear with me, but let's say it's a like a hunting type sales role where they don't have an existing book of business and they have to build that themselves to get going. Oftentimes there is a lengthy, multi-month ramp period. But when it comes to onboarding, right, it's really important out of the gates to try to build that connection with your people as quickly as possible. And now it's not the easiest thing to do. I'm not going to lie to everyone and say, oh my gosh, it's so easy to keep people on board. What you have to do is you have to be open, you have to be transparent, and you have to be vulnerable with your new employees that are in their most vulnerable state, right? Changing a job is one of the most hectic things that someone can do in their life, right? So be there, coach them, talk about the challenges, the struggles, what do they need, right? Keep them engaged in your process, in your onboarding process, and don't forget to talk about the light at the end of the tunnel, right? If you feel that the process is too lengthy and you're losing folks through that ramp period, remember to talk about what life is like at the end of the tunnel, right? Continue to keep them motivated and continue to be vulnerable, open and honest, and be empathetic with what they're dealing with.
Okay. Jesse's asking here on Zoom, what can we do to help companies like LaSalle in today's market to help SMB?
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
what was that? Yeah.
What can we do to help companies like LaSalle in today's market to help SMB? Jesse, you might have to unmute and maybe elaborate on your question here. Here he goes.
Sorry, multitasking. So companies like you're anchored to helping typically more mid-sized and enterprise type companies, but there's loads of small mid-sized businesses that have these same struggles. So how can everyday business like ourselves or larger help companies like you give the infrastructure or resources to help small mid-sized business fill their pipeline?
Yeah. So and I'll put it out there, LaSalle doesn't just help with the large companies, the Fortune 100 by any means, right? We would work with organizations, the 1 and 2 man shows, all the way up to the Fortune 50. When it comes to what companies can do to better support what they're finding for candidates, providing that infrastructure road pathway, it's really about understanding what your organization has to offer, right? And again, I can't stress enough, it's not just the salary, right? Because those salaries, they will right size. I'm not a professional economist, right? But in the next 12 to 18 months, a lot of these elevated salaries will be dropping down, right? So investing into other things like benefits and training are going to be very, very important to keep attracting talent to what you might feel like is, well, I don't have the brand recognition that these really big companies have. That's okay, because not every person wants to be a number inside of a $100,000 or 100,000 person company. A lot of folks are looking for that smaller feel. They want that connection. They want to be a part of a family environment or a team environment. So focus on your strengths and don't get caught up in what the Fortune 100 are doing out in the market.
Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, just a lot of comments just saying great presentation, a lot of useful information. So yeah, I want to thank you, Stewart, for your amazing talk and all the information that you gave to us today. It was very helpful. As a reminder to everyone, our next virtual happy hour event will be on March 16th. And then we will have another one on March 23rd as well from 5:30 to 7. and you will all get an email in response to that with that information, as well as a link to the recording for today's talk. If you are on Facebook Live, which we had 76 people on Facebook Live today, so thank you for attending. If you want more information, just go to our website at naperbizbiz.net. Or you can DM us with your email address, and we'll go ahead and make sure that you get a copy of the recording today, as well as future event information. Remember, we have another talk tomorrow with Megan Robinson on leadership, and on Monday with the mayor from DeKalb, Cohen Barnes, talking to us about cybersecurity. So just go to the website, naperbizbiz.net, to learn more about those opportunities to sign up, learn more about our groups, membership, and past events. I want to thank everyone again who attended here on Zoom. I want to thank our speaker, Stewart, and everyone on Facebook Live. Thank you so much. Thanks, Stewart.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Everyone
everyone,
have a wonderful day.
have a great day. Thank you.